Hello and welcome, my name is Reactor and I am here today with a first Descendant build guide for Gley. I am using Ultimate Gley in the video presentation, but the setup we are using will also work on regular Gley. Regular Gley, you don't need Ultimate Gley, though I know a lot of people don't really like to invest in regular Descendants anyway, so it's entirely up to you if you want to put the investment into regular Gley or not. Before we get into the build, however, let's first go over Gley's kit, what she's all about, and how she works. So, for some background information about Gley, she works a bit differently than most other Descendants, mainly that she doesn't have any MP or shields. To cast her abilities, she uses both her health as well as a unique resource called Power of Life. She also is different because she has two different states. Her non-frenzied state, which is her default state, and then her frenzied state. And depending on which state she's in will affect what her abilities do. Kind of like Equinox if you're familiar with Warframe. Gley's passive will give you a 4% damage reduction bonus, but only if you're in your non-frenzied state. Additionally, killing enemies will have a 30% chance of dropping a life orb, which is a unique resource specific to Gley. Picking up a life orb will heal Gley by 30%, and it will also fill one of your Power of Life bars. The way Power of Life works is there are 10 bars total, and different abilities will cost a different level of amount of bars. Her first ability is called Frenzied itself. Activating Frenzy will basically switch you between the non-frenzied state and the frenzied state. Casting ability will consume some of your health and will initially convert you into the frenzied state. While in the frenzied state, you will get a firearm attack bonus, an explosive attack bonus, and a penetration bonus. The penetration means bullets will shoot through objects like punch through with Warframe, but it will also lower your HP recovery. It will also increase the amount of damage you take by 10%, and you won't benefit from the damage reduction her non-frenzied state gets from the passive anymore either. It only actually costs health to cast the ability when you are going into the frenzied state. Casting the ability again when you're in the frenzied state isn't technically an ability cast, it acts more as a ability deactivation, so it won't consume any health and it will push you back into your non-frenzied state. Likewise, because the ability doesn't actually consider being deactivated until you recast the ability won't go on cooldown when you first cast it either. But the cooldown for the ability is pretty short anyway. You can tell the difference between what state you're in while actually playing Gley by looking at her hair. In a non-frenzy state, her Gley will be back and it will obey the logic of gravity like normal. In her frenzy state, however, her hair will be white and suddenly gravity won't apply to it anymore and it will start to fly up in the air. Gley's second ability is called Life Siphon. The ability will consume 3 of your Power of Life bars. You can see the Power of Life bars at the bottom of the screen where my mana bar should be. The ability will do damage to enemies while also healing Gley, and the amount you get healed by is based on the amount of enemies you hit. Casting ability in the frenzy state will increase the damage the ability does, while casting ability in the non-frenzy state will give Gley the Vigor buff, which will stack based on the amount of enemies you hit with the ability. The Vigor buff will then give Gley a 2% damage reduction for each stack, and it stacks up to 10 times, so total a 20% damage decrease. Gley's third ability is called Increase Sensory. It consumes health to cast. When in frenzied state, the ability will give Gley Maximize Lethality. Maximize Lethality will make it so that Gley will no longer consume any ammo when she shoots her weapons. However, it will also slow down Gley's movement speed while aiming, sprint speed, and running speed. When in non-frenzied state, however, Gley will get the bonus Maximize Recovery. Maximize Recovery will increase your running speed, sprint speed, and movement speed while aiming, while also increasing the life sphere generation rate from 30% to 60%, and also your health recovery amount. It's important to note that these two buffs can actually be activated on Gley at the same time if your ability has enough cooldown, obviously, because you need to be in the non-frenzied state to get the first one, as it does have a longer duration, and then you need to go into your frenzied state and be able to cast the second one to get both activated with enough cooldown. Gley's fourth ability is called Massacre, so it consumes health as well as all of your current power of life bars. However, you need to have at least a minimum of 3 to spawn, and it will spawn a unique weapon for Gley, which is Massacre itself. The amount of bullets it gets scales of the amount of power of life you use. So if you use the minimum being 3, its bullets will be 3. If you use all 10, it will have 10 bullets. The weapon does inherit all the stats from your mountain weapon when casting it, including things like fire rate, crit chance, crit damage, elemental damage types, all that fun stuff and more. So you definitely do want to make sure that you are choosing specifically what weapon you want to use when you activate this weapon, and also make a good build for that weapon. Additionally, in frenzied states, the ability will also gain increased damage proportion to your current. It will gain increased damage. It will also get increased damage based on how much your current health is versus the difference between that and your max health. That is to say, if you have less health, then if you have a small percent of your health remaining, the weapon will do more damage. In non-frenzied state, however, it will stun enemies. While the weapon does have quite a small magazine, it doesn't have a set duration like some other unique weapons in the game, so you can just use your third ability, which makes it not consume any ammo, and basically have it out forever. Massive Sanctification, or however you pronounce that word, is the transient mod we will be using for this build. It is very important, and really it's Gley's best transient mod. And it is 100% needed for this build, and I will explain why after I explain what this actual transient mod does. But first, if you want to know how to get this transient mod, simply go and run Dead Bride a few times. Hopefully you'll be able to get it a lot faster than I did, because I had to run it many times, but I'm sure you'll get it eventually, and then you can enjoy it. If we read the description of the mod, we will see that it tells us it modifies Life Siphon, Gley's second ability, to allow us to absorb all life orbs during the non-frenzied state. While the mod will do exactly that, it actually changes the ability in more than just that is completely not read on the mod at all. And the other effect that isn't read on the mod at all is why this mod is used for this build and why it's so necessary. So what it actually does is it will change the ability so it no longer consumes power of life bars, it will now consume your health. It will increase the range of the ability, and it changes what the effects of both the frenzied and non-frenzied state do. The non-frenzied state will no longer deal any damage, but it will still heal you, and it will pick up all of the life essence, just like the mod says it does. What we really want this mod for, though, is what the frenzied state does. The frenzied state will still do damage, just like it previously did. However, it will no longer heal you, but it will increase your power of life by 3 stacks. So if I activate my fourth ability here, and then I go into Frenzy, and then I activate my second, we can see I now have 3 stacks with my power of life. The reason why this is so important for this build, as the build I'm going to show you will be, one version of it at least, will be a build utilizing her fourth ability for bossing, and you basically need this augment to give yourself power of life so you can even cast your fourth ability, because otherwise the only other way to get power of life is to kill enemies. There's another augment that can give you power of life on crit hits, which can also be good for this, but this augment just makes it a lot easier. You just cast it, you get 3 power of life, then you can straight off cast your fourth ability straight away. So what is Gley good at, and what is this build all about? So Gley, obviously, first and foremost, is a weapon platform. You can see she has a lot of advantages for being a weapon platform. Her first gives you weapon buffs. Her third, in Frenzy State, makes you not have to use any ammo, meaning you don't have to reload, which is awesome. And she has quite a powerful exalted weapon as well. So this build is going to capitalize on that, and is based around a weapon platform buff, and it has 2 variations to this build, but it is actually the same build. One variation will use the exalted weapon to attack and shoot enemies, and the other variation will use the Vastical Organ launcher, because the Vastical Organ launcher is unique in the fact that it has a very fast fire rate, but it has a very bad reload time, but that doesn't matter for Gley because she doesn't have to reload. The weapon of choice for the other setup is Thunder Cage, which I'm using. Obviously, it's a gun that we all get very early on in the game, and it's a pretty decent gun as well, has pretty decent stats. My build for Thunder Cage isn't perfectly set up though, but I will show my build for it later on. So those are really the two weapons I'm using for this build. I'm using the launcher for the own setup without actually using the Exalted. And then Thunder Cage is basically the stat stick weapon I am using for the Exalted. So I have Thunder Cage out, then I'll activate my fourth ability, and the fourth ability will inherit all the properties from Thunder Cage. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about reactors. So obviously we want a non-attribute dimension reactor. Reason being is she is a non-attribute descendant, and her fourth ability is a dimension ability, and none of the other abilities really matter for skill strength wise, though her second ability, which is the only one that even scales off skill power, is also dimension. And for substats, you need to have skill cooldown. The reason being is because the base stats of her third ability are very terrible with being able to activate it consistently. That is to say, the frenzied version, so maximum lethality, has a 5-second duration and a 40-second cooldown. So you won't actually be able to have your cooldown low enough with mods alone. You need to have a skill cooldown on your reactor. You'll see that I actually have a skill duration and skill down reactor. Skill duration is obviously a bonus to have on your reactor, though it's not needed. So definitely focus on getting skill cooldown. Ideally, you would have a gold one, not a blue one like myself. The only reason why I went with a blue skill cooldown is because I also ended up having skill duration up, which is like the ideal option, obviously. For the external components, you could just do your basic non-specific component set, in which case you would use health for everything except the memory chip, which you would use defense, and you would have a gold max health for HP for your auxiliary port and a gold max defense for your memory port. But if you wanted to have a little more synergy with your external components, you can use the Annihilation component set. The Annihilation component set will give you 2 defense with the auxiliary port and sensor, and then 2 max HP with the memory and processor. But the real reason why we're using it is for its set bonus. With 2 Annihilation sets, we do get a skill duration buff, but with 4, we get a increase to firearm attack, which our fourth ability will benefit from, based on the difference between our current health and our max health. So just like how our fourth ability already works, when we have lower health, we will be increasing our firearm attack more and more. This is really the perfect set for Gley. It's clear that it was made specifically for Gley because Gley entirely works on the idea of lowering your health to increase your damage output, so this is exactly perfect for her. Additionally, when your HP is 50% or lower, you will gain your MP recovery will lower, but your HP recovery will increase for 10 seconds, and this effect does have a 30-second cooldown. This is also perfect for Gley because she doesn't have MP anyway, so she doesn't have to worry about the negative MP recovery. And also, the increased HP recovery is perfect because it's going to keep you alive. Now let's actually look at the Gley build itself. First, starting with our sub-skill mod, I am using Long Distance Mover. It doesn't matter which one you're using, use whichever one you want. I know a lot of people probably prefer mid-air maneuver over long distance maneuver. I personally just like long distance maneuver more because it gives me 2 grapple hooks instead of 1. But again, entirely up to you, doesn't matter. It's really just a utility module slot anyway, so doesn't matter for the build. We are maxing out skill cooldown as much as possible with MP conversion, which will lower our MP, which again doesn't matter for Gley because she doesn't have MP, giving us increased skill cooldown. Then obviously we have the normal nimble fingers to further decrease our skill cooldown, and then we have both focus on non-attribute, which gives us non-attribute skill power and also decreases our skill cooldown by 6.1. And then focus on dimension, which will increase our dimension skill power modifier and then further decrease our cooldown by 6.1%. These work well together because this is skill power, making it a battle mod, and this is skill power modifier, making it an attack mod, so we can actually have both focus mods on at once. Then of course we need to increase our duration as much as possible, which is why we are using skill extension to increase our duration. and skill duration, and we're getting more skill duration from outstanding investment, which is useful not only to increase our skill duration, but also it will increase our HP heal rate, which is again going to keep us alive. With all these mods plus our reactor and external component set, we have a cooldown of 4 seconds and a duration of... Sorry, I was looking at the wrong ability. We have a cooldown of 8 seconds and a duration of 8.6 seconds. However, you don't need the Annihilation external component set or the skill duration on substat on the reactor to get this. If you had a better skill cooldown substat on your reactor, you'll be able to have your cooldown low enough to have enough duration without the substat for skill duration on the reactor or the Annihilation component set. Additionally, all the other mods we have is pretty much just additional survivability. We have increased HP for the max HP, along with Stim Accelerant for the increased max P and lower MP. The other option would be the one that increases your max P and lowers your shields. I personally went with Stim Accelerant. It neither matters for Gley because she doesn't have shields or MP. However, I personally went for Stim Accelerant because I figured if I was going to invest in one of them, I would invest in this one because this one would work better on most other Descendants because lowering your MP isn't as bad as lowering your shields. So that's why I went with Stim Accelerant. We obviously have Spear and Shield, which will increase our defense and also give us some more skill power. And obviously just normal increased defense for more defense. And then we can't, of course, forget our Transient mod, which is right here, which you don't actually need to max out in order to fit the build on. Unfortunately, there's no way of getting around it. The build will need a reactor, an energy activator, sorry, as well as a catalyst in every single slot. Excluding the slots that come socketed, I don't have, these 4 slots, they come with these polarities, so I didn't have to put a catalyst on them, but I did have to put a catalyst on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slots, and I'm going to further catalyst Gley actually because I have other build ideas. So yep, she requires a bit of an investment, but every Descendant does, so that's not really a biggie for this game. Again, so I said for the weapons, I do run Thunder Cage when I'm using my exalted weapon, and I do have the Visceral Organ launcher. I will show you my builds on them, however, none of them are completed yet. I am going to put an activator on my Visceral, but I haven't actually done that yet. For Thunder Cage, I have put an activator on it, but I haven't catalyzed it completely, so it's not fully done. But you can basically see a concept of build here. So we have Firearm Attack from Rifle Reinforcement and Action and Reflection. We have our crit chance and our crit damage, fire rate, our magazine capacity, which doesn't matter for Gley because, first of all, it won't affect her fourth ability anyway, and because of her third ability, it doesn't matter. But this is obviously for just generic Thunder Cage builds. Minus recoil, just from additional utility. You don't need that though. And then obviously we have increased weak point damage and increased electricity damage. And our rolled stats. Again, my rolled stats aren't very good. You can see there's mostly blue stats, so I can probably get better ones. But another element will be very good because each element is a new damage source. So having an element on your gun and then another element on your substats for the gun is a pretty decent damage buff. Firearm attack is also pretty good to have, and critical damage is good to have. If you're using this specifically for against Colossi, bonus firearm attack for Colossi is pretty good. Crit chance is obviously pretty good too. I wouldn't put too much pressure on the sub-rolled stats. Depends on how much investment you want to give into it, obviously. It's up to you. And then for our launcher, as you can see, I haven't even activated it yet, so there's not really much going on here. I basically just have explosion attack, fire attack, more explosion attack, fire rate, and some more fire attack. Like, this gun doesn't have a very good crit chance, unlike Thunder Cage. As you can see, 1% crit chance. So I haven't invested into crit chance in any way, so I'm just basically gonna go all out on raw damage for this weapon once I actually get to upgrading it a bit better. And then there you can see those are my substats. Again, I would encourage going for a substat for an element, so you can get 2 elements in the guns, and then other stuff like firearm attack, crit chance, crit damage won't matter for this weapon, but firearm attack is great. Anything else, a weak point damage is good, but like anything else, it's up to you, really. Anyway, that is all for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe check out some of my other videos. Most of my videos are Warframe related, as I am primarily a Warframe channel. But if you don't know about Warframe, it's very similar to this game. You'd probably like it. I would encourage you checking it out. It's a very fun game. It's my favorite game. This is my first Descendant video, so a build video at least, so I can't really direct you to any of my first Descendant build videos because there are none. But there will be more coming, so give me a subscribe if you're interested in checking out some of my other builds. I know this is basically like the most basic the Gley build in the universe, but still, if you enjoy the video, give me a like anyway, and subscribe, leave a comment, tell me give me some build ideas for this game as well, because I am still learning the game a bit, so any advice would be very appreciated. And if I got anything wrong, leave that in the comments as well. I know I'm not a super genius. Again, I'm still learning this game, so I'm sure I may have gotten one or two things wrong, so do leave any misinformation I said in the comments down below to correct me. That'd be appreciated as well. Anyway, until next time, bye bye!